there's not so much a resistance of using the technology. There's more a resistance in the SME and SME space to the high cost of those transactions. Now, that's the vision that I have. That's the vision that I have for the SME sector and the SMME sector. That it's as easy as that eventually for our what I call them the SME market sector, that they can transact and accept digital tokens for payment. I'm not saying changing for the sake of changing. I'm saying if you can remove a day, 2 days, 3 days out of an application process by changing either the people's mindset or technology or through integration with a third-party service provider, then one should do that.
Welcome to All Things Altron FinTech, the podcast where we delve into strategies and innovations shaping the future of financial technology. In an era where digital transactions are the backbone of global business, creating a payment process that is not only seamless but also secure is crucial. In this episode, we'll analyze the key elements that define the ideal payment experience, from cutting-edge technologies driving frictionless transactions to the security frameworks that protect them. Whether you're a fintech professional, a business leader, or simply interested in the evolution of payments, this episode promises to offer a wealth of insights. I'm your host, Kutlwano, and today we are exploring a topic at the forefront of modern commerce, the perfect payment experience, with our special guest, Mr. Johan Gellatly, the Managing Director of Altron FinTech. So today we'll be expanding more on this topic based off the article that you have just recently completed.
Thank you for the introduction.
Right.
Appreciate that.
If you can just introduce yourself to those that do not know who Johan is and tell us what you do for Altron FinTech.
Thank you. I am Johan Gellatly, the Managing Director of Altron FinTech. And we're predominantly a technology provider to the financial sector in South Africa. We assist a range of consumers of fintech solutions. Our customers range from banks to tier 1, tier 2 retailers, right into the SME and the SMME sector in South Africa. So we're a provider of solutions to make these people's businesses grow sustainably, and to assist them in actually making their businesses more efficient, reduce processes, and help them grow their businesses. That's really what it's all about.
All right. So now, Johan, at FinTech, we are very customer obsessed. We know that you're also very, very, very customer obsessed. Let's talk payments and customer experience, something that you're very passionate about. Why is offering multiple payment options essential for business in today's market?
I'm going to take you back a few years. So if you go back a few years, the payment technology that was available for consumers and retailers and bank-issued customers in the country was very limited. You could go to a ATM and do a few financial transactions there, as well as withdraw money at the ATM. When you go to a pay point in a retailer, you could either use your debit or your credit card for a payment transaction. And that was just about it. So it was very limited, and you couldn't do much as a consumer in the country in engaging for payment transactions. The last 5-7 years, we've exponentially increased the products available for people to make use of at the pay point, and that is exacerbated the complexity. And really, the complexity is what we're trying to resolve for our merchants. I mean, our merchants now today are faced with whether they should be accepting vouchers as a payment token, whether they should be accepting a buy now, pay later token for acceptance for pay, whether it's a straight up transaction or a paid off transaction. A debit and credit card, we're all aware of it. Should it be a static QR code or a dynamic QR code? And there's multiple service providers of these tokens, and merchants are faced with these multitude of tokens that they can actually accept, but they don't know how to engage with the providers of those tokens, as well as with the banks. The banks aren't making it easier for them as well to accept payment tokens from all token providers in the country. So we're inserting ourselves into this process, where we're looking at simplifying this complexity, because it is a challenging and a daunting task for a small startup that wants to now just run their business, and there needs to be a payment acceptance device, a system, a process that can accept all tokens apart from cash, because cash is still predominantly the payment token that outstrips all these other digital tokens by a country mile. I mean, the last report I read, it's about 80% of the transactions in South Africa is still a cash transaction. So we as Altron FinTech has got a large role to play to make these complex things more simple. And then ultimately, we need to make this a cost-friendly and a fee-friendly process for merchants, especially the SMEs, to make use of these digital payment solutions. And that's what it's all about for us.
So in this day and age of technology, right, could you elaborate on how consumer behavior and preferences have evolved over the years?
Well, I think there's two dimensions that we have to consider. First is the fraud, the security portion around having cash, and having cash predominantly as the payment mechanism for consumers out there. The digital products that's available promise to solve that problem, but now it's very complex for both the consumer and the retailer, so to have these products available for payments. So with the advent of different payment transactions, it is becoming easier for customers to transact at the pay point, and it's also an education process for the retailer and the consumer, because the education process is anchored and based in trust, and this trust has to be there for people to accept a token for paying for goods, and offering a token for payment of goods that ultimately the consumer will be charged the right fee, and ultimately the merchant will offer a product or merchandise and be sure that they will be getting their money and receiving their money. Because the last thing that you want to have is that a merchant parts with goods or services or meals and not receive the money when it's a digital transaction. Because it's a cash transaction, that process is sorted out now and then. If I give you the money and I give you the change, you can part with the goods. So there is a level of security, a level of trust, a level of making it easy for people to transact with digital tokens that's available in the market now. And that is up to us. It's up to us. When I use us in the sentence, I'm using it as the retailer, as the bank, and as FinTech solution providers, and as the regional equipment manufacturers of the equipment that we offer to merchants, that we make it easy for the consumer to walk into a store and offer any digital token as a payment for goods and services.
All right. So when it comes to financial inclusivity, we leave no one behind.
This is something that we're working extremely hard at, and what our experience have indicated to us that there's not so much a resistance of using the technology. There's more a resistance in the SME and SME space to the high cost of those transactions. So that is more of a resistance. So there's a burden on us as FinTech solution providers, the regulators, the policy settings, the banks, to come up with a construct of fees for South African citizens. What I imply by South African citizens is that a large portion of our financial transactions that are digital is still in the high-end formal economy. So if we go into the informal economy, that payment for 100 grams of sugar, or for 6 tea bags, or for 700 grams of flour is still done today with cash. Now, how do we evolve that transaction at a cent fee for those transactions into the digital domain? And that's really where the challenge is. And the parties that I mentioned earlier will all have to come together of how do we make that possible? Because the SME merchant, they want to accept digital transactions. And the consumer does have a bank product in their back pocket, or they are subscribed to a token provider that has given them a voucher. But that transaction comes at a high fee now that is not possible in the SME consumer base. And that's where we've got a lot of work to do as service providers in the country to make that happen. Because that is, when we achieve that is real financial inclusion. Because now we've included people in the economy, in the formal economy, that previously was not part of the informal economy. Because I'm of the view that, I mean, there's some research that has been done, which I read the other day again, that they estimate the informal economy to be in the region of 700 billion rand a year. Now, we are finding it extremely challenging to find factual, anecdotal data to include in our analysis of how do we solve for that 700 billion to be included in the digital domain. And that's the challenge of measuring that portion of the economy. Because I think the policymakers and policy setters aren't including that huge economy into the formal decisions they make about interest rates, what fees and we apply, and the rest. So I think it is something that we could allocate more resources to that, so that we clearly understand that. We're trying very hard in our business to ascertain what that is. Have we managed to crack the nut on this? No, we have not. We've got projects on the go. What I call is micropayments. How do we solve for micropayments? Because in the informal economy, the payment normally is not more than 100 rand. True. And not more than 150 even. Yeah. So how do we make that at cents for the retailer plus the consumer? And I call it the micropayment cent transaction. And I looking at how do we solve for that.
All right. Technology certainly plays a big role in all of this. What role does technology play in enabling businesses to offer diverse payment options?
So if you're a merchant, I'm going to give you a bit of a case study. So if you're a merchant today and you apply to a bank to have a payment device in your branch or your store, they offer really a very limited set of what you can accept. A debit, credit, perhaps a static QR code or a dynamic QR code payment, perhaps some voucher. But now you've got multiple providers of dynamic and static QR codes. You have multiple providers of vouchers. So how do you provide all of this as a package to a merchant that they don't have to be concerned around accepting any token? And that's incumbent on us then. I mean, we have to set ourselves up that we can make that journey for that merchant as frictionless as possible, as easy as we can make it to contract with us, so they don't have to be concerned about that. And that's what we have to solve for. Because certainly the providers of these tokens, they want to be included in that customer base. They want their tokens to be vended in those SME environments. And the SME merchants, they also want to accept those tokens, but it's still very complex for them. So technology, with the advent of Android and Android on payment devices, it's now possible to have a smartphone app experience where you can download apps now to the payment device, and you can then make that app also active at that merchant. It's still in its infancy. There's still some teething problems that we're working out. How do you connect the app to the payment instruction? So there's some of that we have to resolve for. But I'm very hopeful, and I'm very excited of what this platform offers. Imagine this world where you contract with the bank as a merchant. You download that bank's app on your phone, but you also download the other 7 banks' apps also on the same platform. And when this person with that specific bank a payment token enters the store, you can actually pay it via that bank, and you can save some more fees. Or we've got 17 BNPL providers that are all available on the platform. We've got 10 QR code providers or 10 voucher providers that is also downloadable from a store onto the payment device. So now it's really up to you how you use your phone when you want to do transactions for e-com, for instance, on your phone. The Apple and Samsung and those providers, they don't have a cooking clue of when you use, for instance, a e-com provider, what app you're downloading. They give you a phone, an operating system, and you contract with the mobile network operator to have connectivity. After that, Samsung, Apple is not involved in. Yeah. Unless you go for Samsung Pay, Apple Pay, which is alternative store of value, then you make more use of the Apple products than what you normally would do. But for the rest of it, you download the app, you transact with that app, and Apple and Samsung has got nothing to do with the transaction. Now, that's the vision that I have. That's the vision that I have for the SME sector and the SMME sector. That is as easy as that eventually for our what I call them the SME market sector, that they can transact and accept digital tokens for payment.
Integration must come with its own set of challenges. What challenges might businesses face when integrating multiple payment options, and how can they overcome them?
It is a challenge that we as FinTechs face of how do we solve for that. Because there's a few actors that all have to work in concert to make this a frictionless experience. You've got banks, you've got lots of banks in the country. You've got digital token providers of lots of them in the country. Then there's some merchants that are integrated, i.e. where the device is integrated into the till system. Then there are standalones. And then with the advent of Android, where you can have the similar experience as with a smartphone, that you can download apps on your Android device for your business and use it as a business tool. So we've already identified 3 or 5 service providers here that all have to work together to make that experience for the merchant a happy experience. They have to trust the platform, trust the apps, trust that they're going to dispense with goods for money, trust that the money is going to end up in their bank account, and trust that the transactions will be done in a secure manner. So all of these oranges are on the air that you have to juggle, and you have to juggle them properly. Otherwise, we are failing as a FinTech in not providing such a service to our merchants. And I believe the complexity is not going to abate. It is actually going to increase, because it's the technologies that we're seeing coming into the fray now is making it easier for more people to offer payment solutions on the Android platform of the payment devices that we now putting into the market. So it's for us, who do we allow through the gate that we can deploy on our payment devices, and how do we make sure that they do it securely, properly, and in the right manner, and that we don't have bad actors that enter into our payment store. So it's incumbent on us to make sure that we do that. So we have a large integration team that's responsible for making sure that the testing is done properly, it's rigorous, performance testing, transaction throughput, transaction turnaround time. So we want to make the experience that the merchant and the consumer have as fast as possible, as frictionless as possible, and then both have faith in the technology, because that ultimately time will tell. And that's how we create trust. And trust is the ultimate thing for us as a FinTech, to make sure that we have our customers on board in our journey. because if we don't have any customers, we don't have a business. So therefore, we have to make sure that our customers feel comfortable in contracting with us, and they have faith that we've got their backs in this portion of their business.
Right. Now, one of our other favorite topics here at FinTech is best practice. We are always 10 toes down, right? Mm-hmm. What are the common pitfalls or best practices you can share?
The most common pitfall is people accept business as usual. And people accept that the process has been like this for 20 years, so why can't it be like that for the next 20 years? So I can cite a few examples for you. So if you take the Amazon of 20 years ago, which predominantly was selling you a book or a lawnmower or a merchant device, that Amazon doesn't look like the Amazon that you experience today. The Amazon of today provides you with software hosting services, system hosting services, apart from the merchandising side and the e-com side of the Amazon business. So it is so widely diversified now. And that has come with an obsession that business as usual can never be the status quo. So business as usual is actually the death of innovation and growth. So you should always question any business process that you have in your company. And you should have this insatiable desire to change it for the better. I'm not saying changing for the sake of changing. I'm saying if you can remove a day, 2 days, 3 days out of an application process by changing either the people's mindset or technology or through integration with a third-party service provider, then one should do that, because you are going to be left behind if you are relying on business as usual going forward. Because we've seen some businesses that don't exist today because of the business as usual attitude. So for us at FinTech, no. Business as usual is a no word, and I can't accept that as the MD of the company. So our people, I encourage them always to question, and they need to question continuously around that. So we're fortunate in South Africa that we have a governing, what shall I call it, governing policy setting regulator environment for the FinTech space and for the banking space. If we didn't have them, 2008 would have been a disaster for South Africa as well. We would have had an implosion of our financial system. So thank you to the regulators and the policy setters that it was so. They played such a crucial role in making us survive. And there's lots to be said for changing the space. And there's always people questioning the regulations that are in the country and the criteria for being a service provider in the country. And they're there for a certain reason. But I also appeal to the regulators and the policy setters so that they can also take a few steps back and question why we have criteria, why do we have policy, how do we change to make it easier for more fintechs to conduct their business in the country. And that's what we're appealing for, is to question processes not only internally, but policy and process from a regulating perspective that we have to comply as well.
Right. So, Johan, when it comes to customers, they tend to be very loyal to what they know or comfortable with what they know, whether it works or it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So how does providing a variety of payment methods impact customer satisfaction and loyalty?
The change management in customers is challenging. I would say it's more challenging with customers than with your employees. Because customers, as you rightfully commented, that they're comfortable. They're comfortable in how things work, and they've got trust in how it works. So when you introduce a new product or a new payment method into that space, there is this level of resistance. But how we're trying to overcome that is we have in certain areas where there's high transaction volume requirements, we have beta testers. So what we call the beta testers, we deploy our products and our service with these customers and they test it. And then we get comfortable that they are comfortable with the new product or the new process or the new service. We then get them to be our soldiers into the market. So they can then assist us in getting the products into the market and getting acceptance of the product. Because customers, they speak to each other. The word of mouth there is huge. I mean, we sometimes underestimate the value of the word of mouth. So that's how things do get communicated between customers. And we try and tap into that channel and that funnel. And then, obviously, you have to have your people with the merchant. You have to pitch up when they have challenges. You have to make sure your training is done properly, and it has to be easy for them to understand. Products have to be easy to use. So there's lots of dimension of making that change management process in the customer environment a fantastic landing. So we make use of all these dimensions in getting the change management done. Are we getting it right yet? No, I would say not yet. But we're striving for it, and we'll get it right eventually. I'm sure of it.
We're well on our way.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us your expertise. It's been a fascinating discussion, one that you're very passionate about. So we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
So do you have any last thoughts that you want to share? Don't give out too much of our secret ingredients.
No, it's my last thought here is that I believe the South African payment participants and service providers, we're at the cusp of changing the market construct to get financial inclusion eventually on the road. I mean, I believe that it's very ripe now. The people are listening. The SARB are making, the South African Reserve Bank, they're making statements that's very encouraging for the fintechs, very encouraging for getting more people financially included in the whole payment system. So we're excited and we're positive that what we're hearing from the regulators and the policy setters are going to make a change. It's up to us now to make it happen. So thank you.
All right. And that brings us to the end of our discussion on the perfect payment experience. Today we unpacked the essential components that contributes to a payment process that meets the high expectations of today's consumers and businesses. We hope this episode has enriched your understanding of how to craft a payment experience that is both efficient and secure. If you found our conversations valuable, we encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review for us, and share it with your network. For more insights into the ever-evolving world of Altron FinTech, be sure to follow us on social media. Thank you for joining us today on All Things Altron FinTech, and we look forward to continuing the conversation in our next episode.